Welcome to English Mirror. The term the 60s is used by historians, journalists, and other academics in scholarship and popular culture to denote the complex of interrelated cultural and political trends around the globe during the era. Some use the term to describe the decade's counterculture and revolution in social norms about clothing, music, drugs, dress, sexuality, formalities, and schooling. Others use it to denounce the decade as one of irresponsible excess, flamboyance, and decay of social order. Let's look into it. The 60s was a decade of tremendous change in international, social, and cultural affairs. It was a decade in which man walked on the moon and the first ever human heart transplant was carried out. A period of remarkable stability and prosperity. The two world wars had caused havoc in Great Britain. The 40s and the 50s witnessed a crippled country slowly limping back to health. As the 50s came to an end, there was many changes in living standards, lifestyles, and attitudes. In 1964, Harold Wilson became the Prime Minister, ending 13 years of conservative rule. The new Prime Minister promised a classless, dynamic New Britain. The Labour Party remained in power till 1970. Trade unions were becoming quite active in the 60s and would dominate politics in the 70s. The 60s witnessed a new attitude towards class. The working class enjoyed increased spending power in a way that it had never done before. This was due to their high wages. Though there was an increase in the price of food and other necessities, the cost of small cars, television sets, and washing machines was much lower. The television, which made its first appearance in the early 50s, was immensely popular in the next decade. By 1961, nearly 75% of homes in Great Britain had television sets. Next in popularity were refrigerators and washing machines. A new kind of social divide was emerging in the 60s. Until 1950, America was the preferred new home for migrant West Indians. But in 1952, the USA banned West Indian immigration. As a result, they turned to Britain. An important aspect of the liberalization of the 1960s was a major progress in the sphere of higher education. Colleges devoted to the study of art and design were founded. Teacher training colleges were upgraded and their importance was recognized. The primary school curriculum, which was under the shade of Victorian values, was made more flexible and enjoyable. For a long time, the main focus of primary education was teaching the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, to little children. There was a revolution in fashion, music, literature, and the arts. The sudden development of mass communication helped create and sustain this youth culture. This was the time when 2 singing groups, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, gained worldwide popularity. The new kind of music was symbolic of young people's rejection of parental values. Sexual and social taboos eroded with the introduction of contraceptive pills and recreational drugs. The values of this youth culture exercised sway over half the globe as the swinging 60s wore on. As the youth culture moved forward, it began to include such phenomena as flower power, the hippie movement, LSD, and hard drugs. Slowly, the glamour of the new generation began to fade in the shadow of violence. As the frenetic decade wore on, it became increasingly clear that its youth culture was heading towards disaster. In the 60s, the major cities of the world were undergoing the most dramatic transformation. Bulldozers could be seen everywhere, pulling down old buildings, and in their place, mighty skyscrapers mushroomed. The higher the skyscrapers rose, the higher seemed the people's hope for the future. A new set of words such as conversation, the environment, pollution, and ecology began to be part of everyday vocabulary. A growing sense of horror at the destruction caused by runaway technology began to hit mankind for the first time. They began to be aware of the harm being done to the countryside, rivers, seas, and to the other species on the planet. Historically, it was an important decade, witnessing the death of three great world leaders, John F. Kennedy, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Martin Luther King. There was great unrest among blacks. In the USA, the black civil rights movement gained momentum under the leadership of Martin Luther King. The Cold War was becoming more and more serious as the conflicts between the USA and the USSR increased. The attempted American invasion of Cuba and the missile crisis of 1962 embittered the already strained relationship between the East and the West. Tension prevailed throughout 1962 in the newly divided city of Berlin. The Berlin Wall symbolized the East-West confrontation. Mankind seems to have reached the very pinnacle of technological advancement when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon in 1969. His immortal words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind," sent a thrill of excitement among people all over the world. Another major milestone in human history was passed when Dr. Christian Barnard performed the first ever human heart transplant operation. In the world of literature, a new type of drama called kitchen sink drama became popular. This type of drama focused very realistically on domestic life, family quarrels, marriage, and other matters pertaining to the ordinary bourgeois way of life. Another type of drama called absurd drama was also enjoying its heyday. Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot and Edward Albee's Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf were seen by a large number of people. The historical play which explores the events and figures of the past was another type of drama that was popular in the 60s. One such play was A Man for All Seasons by Robert Bolt, which focused on the life of Sir Thomas More. It was given a contemporary touch by the introduction of a narrator called the Common Man. Tom Stoppard's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead was another well-known play that was written in a similar style. As far as poetry was concerned, a number of poets of the 50s and the 60s associated themselves with what is known simply as the movement, the poetic equivalent of the angry young men in drama. These poets rejected the romantic style of writing that was employed by poets like Dylan Thomas and aimed at capturing the day-to-day experiences of the common man. Philip Larkin, Tom Gunn, and Donald Davey were some of the poets who belonged to this group. In America, Joseph Heller's novel Catch-22 was published in 1961 and Norman Mailer's An American Dream in 1965. It was a decade in which the old-time favorites, Dr. Zhivago and Barbara Streisand's Funny Girl, were screened. The climax of scientific advancement in this decade was reached when man first landed on the moon. At the same time, civilization took a severe beating due to drug abuse by the youth of the 60s. Thank you for watching this video.